Hi, everyone. Dr. Sheftall again with Truth and Science. This will probably be the last vaccine update I give for about a week until more news comes out. But Jenna from Alabama sent me a great question, and I thought everyone would like to hear the answer to it because it's a very, very common problem I think a lot of us are going to be facing. So let's get on to it. Again, this is just the page where I sort of set out my background, and the picture I chose today is of the Kendall MIT T-stop in Boston, Cambridge. And we are now known as Silicon Valley because of the Harvard MIT joint efforts in genetics and so forth. It's getting to be huge. Okay, Jenna's question was, should my 87-year-old mother get the vaccine? And depending on your age, it may be your grandmother or your mother, but let's take a look at this because again, kind of like children in a way, adults, elderly people have different physiology than sort of younger adults. So let's take a look. One of the problems is that elderly people are not included in the trials very often. And in an article from JAMA this week, they say that they've been excluded from 100% of the vaccine trials. The average age has been 40 years and very, very healthy participants. The reason this is important is because elderly people do not react the same way as far as immunogenicity is concerned as younger, healthier people. And there may be some very distinct disadvantages to this, of course, if they can't mount a significant enough immune response to the vaccine to protect them. But on the good side, they may experience fewer short-term side effects because a lot of the side effects, of course, are due to your immune system getting kicked into action because of the vaccine. All right. Now here's kind of a sad thing that I heard at the town hall a couple of days ago on CNN, and then today again, and that was Dr. Fauci came on and said that getting the vaccine only prevents you from getting seriously ill from the disease. You can still carry the virus and infect other people. So I think he even said something like, it doesn't mean you can hug your grandchildren after you get the vaccine, which is kind of sad because I know that's why a lot of the grandparents are going through all this and want to get the vaccine. They haven't been able to interact with their family very much. And Dr. Fauci even went on to say that you will still likely have to wear a mask and practice social distancing after the vaccine. Okay, to answer the question as to whether your elderly mother should get the vaccine, you need to answer a few questions. And then I'm going to show you kind of a decision tree on the next slide, but let's look at the questions here for a second. Where is she living? Is she in a nursing home where if the general population achieves herd immunity, will it really affect her? Or will it be so thrown out of whack because of the demographics in the nursing home where almost all older people are living? That's very important. Or will she be living at home when she would be able to take advantage of that? Is she concerned about short-term and long-term side effects? That certainly will play a role in whether she gets the vaccine because we don't know yet. There hasn't been enough time that's gone by yet for long-term side effects, and the elderly were not included in the trials, so we don't know about short-term side effects either. Was she positive on the antibody or PCR test? And if she was, and it's been verified, then she should be protected already and certainly would not need the vaccine in such a case. We'll talk about that in the decision tree on the next slide. And what kinds of comorbidities does she have? That's really important because we know that the disease is particularly hard on elderly people with comorbidities such as heart disease, respiratory diseases, COPD, low vitamin D, which can be corrected, of course, obesity, things like that. All right, so I wrote up a little decision tree here. And this really sort of tells the tale. So let's go over it kind of carefully here. Does she have antibodies in her blood already? She or he, of course. But does she have antibodies in her blood already? If she does, she's been exposed to the disease and she doesn't need the vaccine. Does she have a positive PCR test? That means that she has viral RNA in her or nasopharynx, which means that she's been exposed to the disease. In both of those cases, I don't believe she needs to get the vaccine. Let's say that she does not have antibodies in her blood and the PCR test is negative. There's no sign of RNA in her pharyngeal or tonsillar swabs. Okay. Then you go, does she live in a nursing home? If she lives in a nursing home, she's at very high risk of getting sick. So if she's willing to use an untested vaccine, untested in her age group, I mean, she should get the vaccine if she's willing to do so without having the proper amount of testing done before she gets the injection. She should go ahead and get the injection if she's willing to do that. If she's not willing to do that, then she shouldn't get it. Okay, I hope that's a small group though, because I feel like people that are living in nursing homes really are at a lot of risk. And especially if they're new admits to nursing homes. If they've been living in a nursing home all year and haven't gotten it yet, they probably have immunity in place. They probably do. If other people in their nursing home have gotten it. Okay, because like I said in the last video, if you're in a nursing home and some of your housemates are getting ill from it and even dying and whatever, the SARS-2 virus is all over the nursing home. It's flying on air and it gets in every room and everybody breathes it in. So if you haven't gotten it yet, you probably have immunity in place. All right. If she's not living in a nursing home, it gets a little complicated. This means she's living in an apartment or her own house. She could, if she desires to, she could wait a little while and see what happens. She could see what kind of side effects happen in other elderly people that do choose to get the vaccine. That will be well publicized, I'm sure. And she could also wait to see how long it's going to take for herd immunity to be achieved. Remember, I'm not agreeing with the experts when they say that 90% of the American population is still susceptible to this, and we're going to need to vaccinate 70% of the population. I think it's more like 10%, because I think at least 50%, maybe 60, have already been exposed to this virus. And if you look at the graph for New York, I mean, New York was getting an average per day on a weekly basis, now averaging per day, of over 1,300 deaths per day back in April. And now they're only getting 50 deaths per day. Of course, 50 deaths is horrible. But if you look at it statistically, that is more than a 95% decrease in the number of deaths since April. And this is the winter right now. This is the time that you would expect a bump in the number of deaths. So no matter what they tell you on TV about this being the worst it's been so far and so forth and so on, I've talked about the problems with the PCR test and many other things that are exaggerating everything. Even with the exaggerations, we're only seeing 50 deaths in the entire New York State now, compared to 1,300 back in April. So for all intents and purposes, I know this is kind of a shocking statement, but the pandemic has run its course in New York and in a lot of states in the Northeast and other places in the country too. And it's kind of running out of places to go. It's still knocking on the upper Midwest, but most of the curves have turned and are going down now. So after it finishes in the Midwest, upper Midwest, I guess it'll have the mountain states a little bit and the plain states, although they're being affected now too. And they're probably going to give the vaccine credit, but actually we are very close to herd immunity now. if you look at any Gompertz curve, you can understand that. Why does the vaccine turn down and not come up again? It's because it's running out of people to infect. But anyway, let's look at this not living in a nursing home pathway here. And you can see the 87-year-old mother can wait to see what happens with herd immunity or side effects. If either one of them occur, maybe she won't get it because the side effects are too severe or herd immunity has been achieved and then she won't need to get it. If neither one occur, if there's no side effects to speak of and herd immunity did not occur, she probably should get it. That's a lady living in her own apartment or in her own house outside of a nursing home, okay? So which one are you gonna get? Well, the main ones for us are gonna be Moderna and Pfizer. And Moderna uses 30 micrograms of messenger RNA, and I'm sorry, Pfizer uses 30 micrograms of messenger RNA, and Moderna contains 100. They started out with more, but they stopped because the side effects were too severe. That's the Moderna vaccine. So if you end up in one of the get it groups, get the vaccine, I mean, and you have a choice, you have to look at the side effects because they have almost identical efficacy rates of around 95%. So here's a list of the side effects. We've talked about this. We've talked about the fact that Moderna, after the first dose, only 10% had short-term side effects. But after the second dose, 100% of the participants had side effects, including fatigue, muscle aches, joint pain, headache, fever and chills, injection site pain, etc. And 80% of those had those side effects so severe that it affected their daily life. You know, a lot of them didn't feel like going to work and so forth. So they're pretty severe, but they only tend to last a couple of days or so. And I think that's a fairly small price to pay if everything else turns out to be okay. Again, we don't know anything about the long-term side effects because there hasn't been enough time yet. And the issue that I brought up yesterday about the possibility that the virus, the vaccine could get into the blood and go to another organ is very bad. Now you might say, well, can a normal vaccine do that? I guess it could, but again, in order for the live attenuated virus to get into a cell, the cell has to be expressing the ACE2 and the other protein on its surface, and they have to have a high activity or the virus can't get into that kind of a cell. That was very important work done initially, and it helped us determine what cells the virus is using to get into the body through. And it was lung cells, of course, and bronchi, but also intestinal cells. All right, so the most important thing is don't forget to get yourself. And by the way, all those side effects apply to healthy, sort of prime of life type people, averaging age 40, not elderly. We don't know what's going to happen in elderly people because they weren't in the trials. Okay, but the last thing I want to leave you with is get yourself and your mom tested for antibodies and the presence of viral RNA. Because if you have antibodies or viral RNA, that means you've already been exposed to the virus. And if you look at the numbers, again, I mentioned this in I think all 3 videos, but the WHO has told us that 785 million people in the world have been exposed to this, and we only have a handful, like 7 to 10 people who have gotten sick twice from it. That means your immune system is so powerful that it's giving you about a 1 in 100 million chance, maybe a little less, maybe 1 in 30 million of getting the disease again. So why would you get a vaccine if you have a 1 in 30 million chance of getting it again? And put yourself at risk for all the things that can go wrong with the vaccine. So anyway, get yourself tested. If you've already been exposed, you're one of the lucky ones at this point. So thanks again for watching, and please visit my Patreon page and consider becoming a patron. Thank you very much, and I'll see you down the road.